If there was ever a moment in recorded history that looks like a scene out of an action movie, it would be this GoPro helmet cam footage of two King airplanes colliding mid-flight. The fiery scene, which unfolded 12,000 feet in the air above, sent one small plane careening into the ground, while another limped safely back to the runway. Fortunately, the 11 passengers aboard the planes were there with the intentions of going skydiving, meaning that everyone involved in the wreck had come aboard with their very own parachute. For them, the collision resulted in nothing more than minor injuries to two of them. The crash happened on a bright Saturday evening over Superior, Wisconsin, near the Minnesota state line. The two single-engine planes were maneuvering into a position called a tracking dive, which is when one plane is closely following the other just before the skydivers prepare their jump. However, as seen captured on the cameras, one plane ended up flying underneath the other. In the confusion, the pilots unknowingly quickly closed the gap between the two planes and slammed into each other, causing catastrophic damage to the plane's propellers, wings, and bodies. In addition, upon impact, Daniel Chandler, one of the skydivers, was pinned between the planes and then thrown into the open skies, after which the rest of the divers followed suit. One by one, they poured out of the wreckage into the safety of the sky. The falling cameraman turns to look back at the debris just as the lower plane's engine erupts into a fiery sight. At that point, the pilot realized it was a lost cause and is seen diving out of the wreckage using his emergency chute. Despite that, the other pilot chose to remain inside the cockpit of his plane. Luckily for him, the plane he was piloting hadn't caught fire and it was able to limp to a safe landing. As for the rest, they parachuted down safely into an open field. Much to their relief, the abandoned plane spiraled down into an empty field. As crazy dangerous as it seems on the GoPro footage, of all the mid-air collisions to have, this one probably happened in the most ideal of circumstances. Although the farmer whose field was ruined by a crashing plane might disagree. They say justice is best served cold, but sometimes it chooses to be served as two red-hot bullets. On Saturday, October 12, 2013, in Sao Paulo, a helmet-mounted GoPro captured a Brazilian robber getting shot after trying to steal a motorcycle. The footage went viral after it was published on YouTube and shared on social media sites. The cameraman riding on a motorcycle is seen approaching an intersection when another motorcyclist and his passenger pull in front of him. The passenger on the other motorcycle points a pistol directly at the cameraman, who quickly steps off the bike. The biker hands over his keys to the gunman, who then attempts to flee with the newly acquired motorcycle. However, before he is able to drive off, a man exits a car sitting next to them, pulls a gun, and shouts at the thief. The heroic stranger turns out to be an off-duty police officer. The officer demanded for the thief to step away from the stolen bike. Instead, he retaliates by pointing his firearm at the officer. The officer responds by unloading 2 shots into him. The bullets hit the robber in the abdomen and leg, causing him to drop to the ground. After the video ends, an ambulance rushes to the thief to rush the young man away. The 18-year-old survived wounds but was slapped with a long prison sentence. A Russian paraglider experienced the fright of a lifetime when his parachute accidentally nabbed an additional passenger while he was soaring miles above the Indian Himalayas. The man, an experienced paraglider nicknamed Perevolka by the paragliding community, was enjoying his glide down back to Earth when he had the misfortune of colliding with an adult griffin vulture. The vulture became entangled in the ropes and compromised the effectiveness of the parachute. Before he knew it, Perevolka was descending toward the ground at an alarming rate. Luckily, he managed to open the emergency parachute, which greatly decelerated his fall and helped him regain control of the deadly situation, which saved his life. Still, the Russian man was destined for a crash landing into the trees. Miraculously, he only received minor injuries, and once safely on the ground, he was able to radio his friends for help. As for the large bird, it was still tangled in the ropes, but nonetheless, it was still alive. Perevolka was kind and daring enough to free the spooked bird. Not an easy task either. The claws had become tightly tangled in the canopy. Finally, when the bird was freed, it flew away, presumably to harass more parachuters. The dangerous flight, or fall if you will, was caught using a GoPro attached to the glider's helmet. Typically, when you have this type of nightmare, you wake up just before you hit the ground. But unfortunately for Stefan Egger, he wasn't going to wake up because he wasn't dreaming. He had actually fallen off a cliff, and the impact would be very real. Captured on a helmet-mounted GoPro, the video starts off with the experienced skier and his partner enjoying the scenery atop a snowy mountain peak, at which point he peers over the cliffside, unknowingly foreshadowing the fall he'll soon be taking.